going to go ahead and get started. That way we will get out a little early. So all you need in front of you is this document right here. So if you'll pull that out for me. This is very laid back, so if you're more comfortable standing, sitting, laying down, I don't care. Whatever, just don't fall asleep. I know it's warm in here. Whatever is most comfortable for you, okay? Has everyone had a chance to look at the new standards to see what they actually look like? If you haven't, I do have a book of all of them right here. They look very different than probably what you're used to with the past standards. One page is for a standard, okay? The major difference is that instead of just content, these standards are three-dimensional, okay? It hits on how they need to be taught and then gives you ways to go a little bit deeper into that. I was part of the Science Framework Writing Committee, and they provided this for us for our work. They have this in the color for each grade on the State Department website. I don't know that you can get the book, but you can download for your grade level or whatever grade levels you need on there, and it's color-coded. The colors are very important, and we'll go over that. Huh?
Color printer.
If you know, like, for example, all of this column will always be the blue column, the science and engineering practices. The one in the middle will always be the green. So if you know what the colors are, if you feel comfortable with that, then you don't need it. But yeah. It'll help you, though, when we go through the actual framework that we're going to look at with this document. It'll help you see how it's all tied together. But it's up to your discretion what you want to do. But you don't have to have it. So I'm going to go read this word for word for you. Y'all can read, and I hate going to presentations where they read word for word. So I'm not going to do that. But if I'm moving too fast or you have questions, just let me know. Just shout it out at me, and that will be totally fine. So this was a document that was created. Megan Veldhuizen had a lot of hand in doing this. She took some resources from the State Department and tied it together with her own resources that she researched and found and created this for you. And I hope as we go through this, you'll see what an amazing document this is. I'm going to take it back to my district. I work in Sapulpa. I teach 6th and 7th grade STEM class, but I do have experience as a 3rd and 5th grade science teacher as well. So I was on the Framework Writing Committee for the 5th grade team, so that's where my expertise is. However, I understand that y'all, we have 3rd through 5th in here. So if you have anything to add at any time where your expertise are, feel free to, okay? That way we can kind of learn from each other. So we're just going to start out on page 4. This is online as well on the Lawton website, so if you would prefer to look at it digitally, feel free to pull that up as well, okay? So on page 4, it really just lets you know what the 3 dimensions of these new standards are. It's no longer just a checklist of content that you are going to teach, okay? The first dimension is the science and engineering practices. This is the how the lessons are taught, how the content is taught. Okay. The dimension 2 is the disciplinary core ideas. Okay. That is the what. That's our content. That's what we're familiar with. Okay. And then you have your cross-cutting concepts, patterns, models. This section gives students kind of a deeper understanding of the content whenever you teach it. Okay. So let's flip over to page 6. This lists the 8 science and engineering practices that have been identified for our new standards. But if you look right here at the actual science standards, what they look like, they're all listed in the blue column, but each standard has one that's bolded, okay? So that is what has been identified as one that really works specifically for that standard. However, of course, a lot of times you know teachers, our lessons will hit more than one of those standards or practices. So they keep them all there just so you know what they are every single standard that you look at, okay? And that's always going to be in blue, the science and engineering practices. Any questions over any of those on that page? And you'll look at those words, ask, develop, plan. Those are going to be your higher level critical thinking skills that the students are going to have to use when doing those. On the next page, page 7, you'll see the engineering design process. So a little different than our scientific method that we might be teaching in our classrooms. Page 8 is an example of a 5E instructional model, if you're not familiar with this. Kind of a way to structure your lesson plans a little bit different than maybe the 10-page lesson plans that we were taught in college that no one ever does in real life. But a really good way to structure your lessons. I will tell you, we have just started phase 2 of the framework project with the State Department. I am on the 4th grade writing team for that. So what we are doing is taking the bundled lessons that we created in framework phase 1, and we're creating example lessons for teachers. That way, teachers that don't feel confident teaching science, especially I know in the younger grades, time is an issue, and it kind of gets put to the back burner a lot of times. This is going to be a resource that they can go and look at and have lessons that are already there and they can use, as well as this first phase of the framework that we're going to look at. So it's not created yet. It will be on a website whenever we kind of put all those resources together and eventually assessment tools and all of that. Hopefully we have some draft versions. We're working through July to create these resources. So hopefully sometime after that they'll release some drafts that teachers can go and give feedback on and let us know what they think. So if you're not connected with Tiffany Neal, she's the one that kind of sends out her monthly email and on Twitter and Facebook as well. So that's where you can probably hear about it first. If you look at page 9, this is where it's going to help you with the cross-curricular, especially in the lower grades. It's going to help them see how to tie in the math and reading standards as well. They're not on there yet because they just got through legislation with our new math and reading standards. And I know that Megan will update this on the website as soon as those connections are made available. So keep looking for that. And they will actually be listed on here as well on the State Department website. At the very bottom of each standard, it says connection coming soon. It said pass, but with the new standards, they'll be listed there too. And it'll give specific standards. I don't know if it has in any of them. No. It'll give specific ELA standards that go specifically with that science concept, specific math. That way teachers that don't have time, which is almost all of us, we don't have time to do that ourselves, and it'll already be done for you. So that's going to be an amazing resource, so keep an eye out for that as well. If you'll look on page 10, this is a domain comparison chart, okay? A lot of times what we're teaching, I know that before I kind of assumed that it was something they were hitting in every grade, or maybe I was the only grade that taught it, okay? This is going to let you know, if I'm teaching energy in 5th grade, I know that they should have heard about it in 4th grade, and then in kindergarten, okay? So this just kind of lets you know as a teacher what their background is on that specific content, whatever it may be, because it's not going to be taught in every single grade level. So that's a really good resource to have as well. Any questions on that page? Pretty straightforward. Page 11 starts your scope and sequence. This is something we created with Megan to create kind of like a pacing guide. I know, especially for new teachers or teachers that are not familiar with science or have a science background, they don't really know where to start, what order to do it in. They just kind of go from the front of the book to the back of the book. So this creates a pacing guide so that you kind of have some kind of idea of what order you could put it in and teach it in. It's not set in stone. If you feel like this is not the best for you, or you have something that works better, or you want to adjust this in any way, that's totally fine. This is just kind of a starting. Yes?
We just came from the module lesson to teach us how to do it. And so we probably want to coincide.
Well, if you look.
We do flight and machine.
Yeah.
The very first of school. But anyway.
Well, I know like on 5th grade, if you look in November, it says Project the Way module. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
Well, no, I'm not
or
grade. It doesn't.
It doesn't have it on any of them? Okay. So that might be something that Megan's going to work on.
Yeah.
Because I know she's big into that Project Lead the Way. So I know on 5th grade, I see it on there twice. Which I'm not totally familiar with that to know how many modules you have per grade, but that would be good if once you're teaching that, if you want to add that in where it fits and then share that, I think that would be good.
I've got to be wherever they're doing it.
Right, right. That would be a good resource. Yeah. If you notice, though, the focus that on the standards, for September, for example, there's only a couple standards listed. So it really gives you an opportunity to go a little bit deeper with those standards, rather than, okay, I did gravity today, I have a week to do it, or whatever. You really have a lot longer to do that for each of the standards. So I really like that. And then that goes all the way through April. So it has your whole year planned out for you. Okay, starting after that is the science framework. This is going to be a document that I think is super helpful to you, and hopefully you'll want to take it back to your schools and share it with the other science teachers in your building. If you look on page 16, it's going to explain how to read this document. The very first section is the in lay terms. This section is really meant for non-educators, your parents, your legislators, possibly admin that maybe haven't been in the classroom for a while. This might be a good section for them, but that's really what this section is for. It's very brief, and it's in terms that they can understand, even not being a science teacher in the classroom. The next section is going to be the section that's really for the teacher, the three-dimensional storyline. That storyline is also color-coded, and we are on page 16. What we wanted to do was provide a resource for teachers. Instead of you looking at the standards and trying to figure out how it all fits together, we wanted to create that storyline for you. So there were teams of 2 teachers per grade level. We did this kindergarten all the way through high school, and provided these documents for them. So if you have teachers that are in the lower grades or even a little bit older, they have this document for them as well that they can access. And again, that section is color-coded for you so you can see how the 3 dimensions work together. Then you have your lesson level performance expectations. I don't know if your school is like mine, but they want us to put our objectives on the board, what students are going to be able to do. That section is going to be helpful for you as well. And then our last section is the misconceptions. What students might think they know about a certain topic, and then what the actual concept should be. And those are all research-based. So time went into that, so they're not just, what do we think we can put here? They're actually research-based. So the next page just starts your first bundle. They're not all going to be like physical science together, earth science together, life science together. We really looked at the standards as a whole per grade, and we thought, okay, well, this is a life science concept, and this is earth and space, but they really go together. So we bundled even across the different science content as well. So you'll notice that. In lay terms, again, is very brief. And if you look at the 3-dimensional storyline, it's already color-coded for you, okay? So all of the green that you see in that is going to be the content, the what you're teaching, okay? The blue is going to correlate with the science and engineering practices, and then the orange is going to be the cross-cutting concepts. That way you don't have to try to figure out how it all fits together. And then looking back at an example, you'll see that the colors are the same as this. Okay, so that's where we got the colors for this. Okay? We try to make it as easy as possible. Yeah. The orange is cross-cutting concepts. Yeah.
When it says causes and patterns, causes is like what you're reading, cause effect.
Cause and effect.
And pattern is
Exactly. Yeah. Cross-cutting concepts. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about the blue?
The blue is the science and engineering practices. The how they're doing it. No, you're totally fine. Yes.
So, I know everybody else in everybody thought that too. Why can't I have one of those books? So can I understand this?
Yes.
That what was in that book is color coded.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So if I went and I found, so if I'm looking on 5th grade, 5 PS 1-1, I can pull that up here. 1-1. So I have it here. Okay? And what we did whenever we created this, we looked at all of these pages that look just like this. And we used whatever science and engineering practice was here, we tied it into the 3-dimensional storyline. There you go.
That
Yeah, you're fine.
we used to have curriculum that was set up like that, that not only gave you the objective, but it gave you ideas about how to carry
Teach
out
it.
the objective.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, I'm sorry, before. But
You're
at the
totally
bottom
fine.
here where it says like students for the third grade, students can observe marvels and how they, like you're saying, it's given us everything that we need, so we don't have time to go search it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all there for you.
So what website is this?
This is going, they actually just published this to the State Department website this week. So if you go to that website, there's a science standards link, and you can click on science framework. And yeah, it's like OSDE.
Just type it up on state.
That's what I always just Google it. Yeah.
Just go under education and resources.
Yeah.
For standards in it.
Yeah, there's a whole page just for the science standards with a link to the framework. Yeah. And then once we get our phase 2 up and running, then they'll add that on there as well, so you can actually find the lessons and all of that. What we want to do is have it all in one place. That way teachers, it's as easy as possible.
I think if it does, you said the book was up there, if they'll print off the book, we're gonna get it black and white though.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll just have to go, when you read it, just know the first column.
Exactly.
Exactly what you were in.
Right.
But they are gonna print it off for us.
Oh, I don't know.
I think you'd have to ask your administrator if media could run it for you.
That's what someone in the last
And maybe
session was saying.
One per grade level or something, and then it
Yeah.
would be color coded.
You
But
could
our
do that.
printers won't color the color.
That's how we're very stingy at my school, so I don't see them printing that. I will tell you, though, another resource that the State Department is working on, it's called an open education resource. And it's basically like a digital textbook that's actually aligned to these standards from like this year. Like it's not from like 2004 or whatever.
Well, we can download it to our iPad or something?
Yep. It's going to be digital. You can also, for very cheap, because Utah does it, and you can Google that, Open Education Resource, an OER. They're in phase 2 of that project right now as well. It's meant to be an interactive textbook for your students. They leave margins where they can write notes into it, draw pictures in it. It's interactive where it has them answering questions. It doesn't look like your typical textbook.
So it's not, but it's not.
Do what?
Yeah, because you print it out.
Yeah. What a lot of schools do, they'll add to their, what's it called? The supply list at the beginning of the year. Like, Utah does this. For like $5, the kids pay $5, and they get their own printed copy of it. And then that's their textbook that they get to do whatever they want to do. And that's what Oklahoma is moving towards. The difference is it's going to be aligned to our new state standards, not next generation science standards or PASS or whatever. It's going to be. You would just order them, or you could do a digital copy, and they would be on the iPad. The only difference is I don't necessarily know how the notes are going to work, or if you don't have enough technology for that.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
So you could do it either way, though. They're going to have it available. So, again, that's going to be that's a final, ready-to-go product. She'll post it on the website yeah. But something to look forward to know, because I know it's frustrating to have to pull all these different resources and try to come up with your own curriculum. Nobody has time for that. I mean, at all. So this is going to be something that's ready for you to go, aligned to the standards. So it's going to be a really great resource to have. Any other questions about the 3-dimensional storyline?
So with this right here.
Yes.
I mean, this is not as updated as what's going to be on the State Department?
This is, yes. This is the
this
exact
is-
thing.
I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, this is the final version of it.
So we have ours already?
Yes.
Oh, I got you.
For your bundling, yes. The only difference is it doesn't have, you don't have this. So, but you can get it on there.
That's not for each grade level, though. That's for all grades. You have it.
So, yeah, the one I have is kindergarten through high school. Yeah. So you're only going to have a few pages to print
It's
off.
only like 10 to 14. I know fourth
It's
grade's
not a lot.
14, but then
Yeah.
some are 10. And the colors aren't, I'm on it now, and the colors aren't that, like, I mean, it looks like the headings are in that color, so I
Yeah.
would really print it and grab black and white, just
Green
Color. Yeah.
Just thinking about I could pull it up at home.
Totally.
It's 14
Yeah.
for board.
So it's not a lot. This looks like a lot, but it's every single standard. Yes.
Just a little question
Yeah.
about the textbook. So eventually, are they doing away with textbooks? Is that what you're saying?
The problem is that the textbooks we have, well, they're outdated, first of all, but they're not aligned to our new standards. And that's the problem. If you have a 5th grade textbook, it might not have all the content that the new standards have in there. Not to mention, it's not three-dimensional. Well, that's what they're doing. The OER committee is actually looking at these standards, and they use these framework documents to create this OER resource. So it will all fit together nice and neat. That's the goal when it's all done. I'm not sure. I think they're actually just doing applications at this point. Yeah. So it'll be a little bit of time, but once it's done, it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be like perfect. The next section on that is just the lesson level performance expectations. Your assessments aren't necessarily going to just be paper and pencil. To assess a student's understanding, you might have them create something. That's going to be a major difference here. And then your misconceptions with the accurate concept are listed there. So we have done that for every grade level, for every standard is represented. Sometimes, at least with 5th grade when I was doing this, a standard might fit in a couple different bundles. So you might see it represented more than once, but that's going to be even better because they're just going to get a deeper understanding of that standard. The last thing I want to point out before you get a chance to kind of flip through this on your own, at the very back of this packet, Megan has included a resource guide. And then probably my favorite part is the vertical alignment. I know if your district's like mine, we don't necessarily have a lot of time to meet with the teachers that are grade below and the teachers that are grade above. So this tells you as a 5th grade teacher, okay, what should my students know coming from 4th grade? What is their prior knowledge of that? Okay. And then also, what should they know going into 6th grade? That way we don't have teachers coming to us saying, why didn't you teach science? I did. On what they did on the vertical alignment, it's just a grade below you and a grade above you. Yeah. If you are really curious, that document at the very beginning, the, what was it called? The comparison chart, domain comparison chart. Yeah. It's not as detailed as what's at the back, but that gives you kind of an idea. If you are, what grade is your packet? Are you a 3rd grade teacher or 4th grade? So you should have 2nd grade in your vertical alignment and then 4th grade. This is just to let you know what they should have gotten the year before you and what they can prepare for in the grade after you. Yeah, that way you can kind of align your lessons and know what you're supposed to do before that. A couple other things I brought if you want to look at them. I don't have copies for you, but they are online. This is a kind of a vertical alignment for the science and engineering practices. So it tells you, okay, let me go to one besides that one. Developing and using models. Because I know a lot of times as a science teacher, I didn't know how deep to go into something or how broad to leave it. So what this does, it takes all of your science and engineering practices and tells you, okay, this is going to be represented at K2, but exactly how deep do they go? And then it goes all the way up through 12th grade. And that's for all of your science and engineering. And then I also have one for your cross-cutting concepts. So patterns is obviously represented K through 12, but how deep do they go at each level? And that just kind of gives you an overview of that. And you can find these online as well. So I just brought them in case you wanted to look at them and have an idea to kind of help you teach that. But do you have any questions over any of this? I know it's a lot of information. There's a lot of good things coming in the future to help give you resources to teach these the best that you can. So I think it's all going to be really positive and exciting. But I just want to give you a little time to flip through all of your bundles. If you have questions, let me know. If you're on Twitter, I would love to connect with you. My Twitter handle is right up there on the board. And then I will put the post survey up for you as well.